Welcome to Steps, a podcast celebrating people and their stories. Far too often, we don't give people the opportunity to share their journey, where they've come from, what they've overcome, and the amazing things that have happened in their lives. That's what we're going to do on Steps. We'll have real conversations with real people to understand how they've gotten to this place in time. Confucius said, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So, let's start this journey. Today's guest on Steps is Carly Wopat. Carly is currently a professional beach volleyball athlete who got her start on the indoor side of the game. In our chat, we discuss her journey from an early age and her recruitment to Stanford. While at Stanford, Carly suffered the loss of her twin sister, Sam. We talk about this moment in her life and how it affected her, along with how it shaped her view on how she lives her life now. We also dig in on the transition from indoor to beach volleyball and how the dream of being a firefighter became a goal that quickly became her reality. A quick note, during this episode, we speak on the topic of suicide. If you or someone you know is in need of help, we will have resources linked in the show notes. Now, let's get into the conversation with Carly. Hey there, my friend. How are you?
I'm great.
Yeah, I like hearing that. I mean, great is a good thing. I see you're smiling. Things are good. I'm curious, and our listeners I know are always curious. Where in the world are you right now?
Right now, I'm in my apartment in Redondo Beach, California. I'm here mostly to train and play volleyball on the beach because Hermosa in Manhattan is the mecca of beach volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 2 practices earlier today already, so making the most.
You've already had 2 practices. Like I can't even fathom this because again, like having been a coach and having I get it, but like you're outdoors and you're doing that. Like walk us through 2 practices already today, and I'm sure you got more stuff going too later on.
So 8 to 10 a.m. I joined a USA development program that they recently started. Mm-hmm. Jose Loyola is currently the head coach of it. And it's a great opportunity. I really like what they're trying to develop with it. But it's a bunch of girls who are kind of coming out of college. They're not quite established yet on the international tour, I guess, representing USA. But they have a lot of potential and they want to compete internationally. So really high level focused practices. It kind of reminds me of what we did with the indoor national team, having that kind of structured support. So I'm a big fan of it. And then after that, I went and worked with Scott Davenport. He's been helping me with some technical stuff with the game. So I did an hour and a half with him.
All right on. I mean, again, like I bring that up and I always ask the question because, again, obviously indoor training is different than beach training and all of that stuff. And again, you're competing at some of the highest levels possible. I mean, again, I know that I saw you out there competing at NBO last weekend. And, again, it's like that's kind of the granddaddy of them all. Like, what was that experience like out there, right where you play and where you practice and all that stuff?
Yeah. Nothing can relate, I think, to that kind of atmosphere. I just love competing in that kind of space. It's so exciting, and I like that kind of pressure and adrenaline. The AVP did a phenomenal job, I think, of setting everything up. There was a lot of spectators. I think it was a very successful event for them as well. But people fly out from all over different states and everything to go to the Manhattan Beach Open. It literally is the granddaddy of beach volleyball tournaments. So being able to play and compete and meet so many different people, and we had so many fans and just supporters that kind of popped up along the way. They would watch us play and they would be like, oh, I really like you guys. We're going to follow you the rest of the tournament and cheer for you. So just that kind of support and community is the coolest thing. And I don't think you can find it in a lot of other sports. I think it's pretty unique and special to beach volleyball.
I mean, you just said you got groupies based on, how you were playing and people started following you around. So, I mean, again, I think it's super unique. And again, so for our listeners that maybe aren't volleyball, fans or don't even kind of understand AVP and the process and everything, right? Like there's main draw. And then there's like where you have to kind of qualify on in. Can you explain like that process and kind of what you went through just to be able to kind of play on the weekend?
Yes. So there's a 32 team main draw, and 8 teams came out of the qualifier, which is a pretty high number, but it is, again, probably the most significant beach volleyball tournament of the year. So Katie and I, we didn't have enough points to make the main draw, and we had to go through the qualifier, which meant we were playing on Thursday. It's single elimination. We played 2 matches, both went to 3 sets, and they were good battles. But we prevailed. We're good at winning 3-setters, we figured out right now.
Put that on the resume, right? Like excels at 3-set matches.
Excels at 3-set matches. Now we both know how to grind. So it's really fun to play with Katie, because we both are in it for the long haul. And I think some people will tap out after a certain point, but we both know that I'll run down anything she gets up. She'll, chase down a ball that I happen to like get up somehow. So it's really fun to play with her and have those kind of matches. Hopefully we don't always go to 3 sets, but winning those 2 matches, I think, were a big confidence boost for us, and it just felt great to qualify for the Manhattan Open. It's one of the best tournaments, and just the level of play in the qualifier itself is very high. You have a lot of young, talented teams who just haven't been able to play in a lot of those tournaments and get the points. So the talent and skill level is there.
I mean, it's fascinating. And again, to your point, right? Like based on it being in Manhattan Beach, right? There's a lot of people that can go ahead and try and do the qualifier, do the play-in matches, because again, I mean, it's the volleyball mecca. And like, even because I was on Instagram, I was taking a look. I think I saw like Carly Lloyd was out there trying. She was doing some of that stuff, and like, but that's an interesting transition, because you played with Carly. What was it, like the weekend before or 2 weekends before? You guys competed in 6-man, yeah. Yeah,
and actually, I practiced with her this morning. She was my partner at the.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, so she's been dabbling with some beach, and I think at some point next season or the season after, she's thinking about making the transition. So it's been fun to see her out there, and she's super athletic. Has great hands already. So I think she has a lot of potential to be a great beach player. But yeah, it's cool to play with her on the beach now as well, after having the background together on the indoor national team.
Yeah, for sure. And like, there's a lot of people that do that transition, right? Like, I mean, again, by virtue of my old life, I good friends with Alex Kleinman, right? Like Alex made the transition from indoor to beach, right? Like you've made the transition from indoor to beach, right? Like Taylor Sander, right? Like he's making the transition. He's successfully made the transition from indoor to beach. And like, why do you think that is
so successful?
Yeah, so successful. And then also kind of like the evolution of where you go.
The evolution of where you
go. Like the evolution from a playing perspective, right? Like, and again, we'll get into your playing journey, but like, it just naturally seems like it's indoor to beach.
Well, I think that evolution happens because of life circumstances. A lot of people will start families, for example, and going and playing overseas is really a grind. I don't think a lot of the population realizes how hard it is. They just know that we play professional volleyball, but they don't understand that you're going to a foreign country by yourself. You're isolated from all family and friends. They speak a different language. It's a different culture. There's just a lot of challenges with it. And I think once you have a baby or a family, it gets that much more difficult because you have those responsibilities and priorities now. So after a certain amount of time, I think that's one of the big reasons why people will make the transition to beach. And then also longevity wise, for me, that was I think part of it is it's just a lot easier on your body. It's, in some ways, it's actually way more metabolic, I think, than indoor. You burn a lot more calories and you have to use up a lot more energy because there's two of you on the court. You're moving in sand. You're involved in every single play. It uses different muscles. It's not as quick twitch as playing on hardwood floor, but everything is less impact. So I haven't had any serious injuries since I turned to beach volleyball and started playing in 2018. Whereas indoor, there was always something I was managing, like I would tear ab muscles. I don't know how. And my knees, I had bad patellar tendonitis.
Yeah.
Where I remember getting some foot injuries, just like stress fractures and stuff like that. So,
the only stuff that you got is like that pinky you got there right now.
Yeah, pinky. I fractured it in the qualifier for the MBO, and it's called mallet finger, but I damaged the extensor tendon, so I have to keep this brace on 6 weeks, which keeps it in a straight position. And apparently it'll heal itself. I don't have to get any kind of surgery. So I can still play. I just have to wear this, and then I've been taping it to this finger.
Is that your left hand?
It's my left hand.
Okay.
And I've been hand setting with it too, so.
Really? It's been coming out clean?
Yeah.
Right on.
But yeah, back to the beach transition. I also think you find or you see a lot of successful transitions from indoor to beach because it brings a different level of athleticism to the beach. A lot of the indoor players are big, they're physical, they know how to swing, how to hit the ball. And players who solely grow up playing only beach volleyball, I think they lack some of that athleticism and power, I guess. That's pretty.
But it makes sense, right? Like, and again, and I'm not taking. I was an indoor coach for 8 years collegiately. Like, I'm not taking anything away from the indoor game, right? But in some cases, right, it's see ball, hit ball, and hit ball as hard as you can, right? Again, and at the higher levels, right? To your point, it's the athleticism. There is a lot of strategy involved in everything like that. But like, even if you're talking a mid-tier, program, right? The athletic teams or the more physical teams will typically have a little bit of an advantage, right? And again, to your point, if you grow up on the beach, right, you're seeing a different game, right? It's a little bit, and I'm not taking, this is a little bit of a generalization, but like it's a little bit more finesse. It's a little bit more all around player. Yeah.
Yes. And that's something that that I've had to learn. For example, coming to the beach, I can hit the ball for sure, but learning the finesse side of the game, that takes a little bit of time. And then also just there's so many different intricacies on how you use your body. In beach, you're lifting the ball so much more. Indoor, it's speed and angles, and you're shooting it, but you can't do that. You can't do that on the beach because it's so much harder to read where the ball's going. So mechanics and technique, there are a lot of differences. But I think if you if you're especially thinking about playing at the highest level, you have to have a certain level of athleticism. And if you look at the female side of the game, for example, there's a lot of good players who can shoot and hit spots and move the ball around. But if you want to really set yourself apart and have an edge, I think you need to have the ability to put the ball away and put up a big block too. For right now, it's scarce to find big blockers on the beach because there's so many medium-sized players who are very fundamentally sound and they're good with hands and placement. But again, I think there's certain things that intangibles that can't really be taught, and indoor players like Alex Klein, for example, she's so tall and she puts up a massive block.
Yeah.
So that can't be taught, I guess.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, again, there's a saying amongst coaches, right? You can't teach tall. Like you can't. And no, that's spot on. Before we and again, I want to dig in on your transition, and what prompted all that. But I actually think that I want to pay some tribute to kind of what happened before and kind of your journey to that point. And if we can potentially rewind just a little bit. Sure. Curious, again, growing up, club volleyball, all that kind of progress into Stanford and then the indoor side of things for you.
So starting at what
we can roll whatever. When did you first start playing? Because again, well, here's I'll rewind, right? Obviously, you've got a family that's full of athletes, right? I mean, your dad was in the Olympics. Your mom gymnast, all that kind of stuff, right? Brothers, just all those things. You got a family of athletes. So, when did the volleyball bug get you?
Volleyball bug got me around the age of 10 years old.
Yeah.
And we had a PE teacher at my elementary school who started an after-school volleyball team, and her name was Tina Brown. So my sister and I joined and had a ton of fun. It was basically, at that age, it's basically is this fun or not? So
right. Yeah.
She made it super fun. And I don't know, we played a lot of different sports growing up: gymnastics, basketball, track and field, volleyball. Started playing club volleyball at age 12 and quickly realized as we progressed through high school that this was something we could really be good at. I remember being pulled up to the 18s club team when I was 15 years old.
Ooh.
And it was a little daunting. I definitely felt out of place a lot of the time, but it gave me plenty of exposure to college recruiters and to, I think, the highest level of the club game at a young age. And for me, that was a point where I was like, okay, this is kind of where I should focus my energies because I can really see a trajectory for me into college and beyond. And I think when you realize that you can be really good at something, that just kind of lights a fire in you, and momentum compounds and you get better and better. So volleyball became that sport for me. And
it's interesting you say age 15 to 18, right? Because again, I've coached club at age 15, and that's the most awkward age that I've ever coached in my entire life, right? Because at age 15, females are usually they're growing into their bodies. It's all of these different things. It's boys, it's the struggles at school, it's all of that stuff. And then here you are, you're being asked to compete with somebody that's a senior in high school or seniors in high school.
Yeah.
And that's gotta be that's one of those wake up moments, what the hell is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine, right? I've got a daughter and she's tall for her age. And, if we get the opportunity to kind of make that choice, hey, do you want to play up? Do you want to play down? Whenever she actually decides to play something, That's going to be a tough decision because, again, like, do you compete at the level that your peers are at? Do you compete at a higher level? Obviously, it worked out well for you, but in some cases, I've heard that it doesn't work out that well.
Yeah, in some cases, I mean, it was emotionally challenging just because I don't think I was totally there resilience wise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember that there's times where the pressure would get to me, or I'd be pulled off the court and I'd start crying and just, I don't know, like I still had some more development to do with the mental side of the game. But when you are put in those kind of situations where you have to rise to the occasion, you will rise to the occasion. So I think in the long run, it is smart to play up and get outside of your comfort zone, even though it can be challenging. I think a lot of times mentally and emotionally for younger athletes. So.
Yeah, and again, it's obviously it worked out for you, and I assume like did your sister play up with you as well? You guys, like, I mean, twin sister, was that natural or no?
No, she wasn't pulled up at the same time as me.
Okay. Was there something like, did she have a little animosity around that?
I think she was a little bit upset, but yeah. The team she was put on, she I don't know, found a lot of success and was kind of a leader there for them. So, and then we were both different positions too. I was a middle blocker at that point, and she was an outside hitter. So, it worked out. But you know, it is hard. It was hard being a twin and always feeling like you're being compared. A lot of times, I don't think there even was that comparison, but just amongst each other, like it's like having a built-in buddy, but also a built-in competitor in a sense, because you feel like you're always being like, if she did really well in something and I didn't, just that comparison was hard.
Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, again, I can only imagine, right? Here's your twin sister, right? Like, and vice versa. I'm sure she felt the same way, right? Like, but that's.
But you know what? I think that push and pull is honestly what made us so successful in a lot of things.
I was going to ask that. Yeah, go with that a little bit.
Because I look at my life and I can like rattle off all kind of like a bunch of crazy achievements, and I'm like, what has been a founding factor? And I think honestly it's being a twin, because it's so ingrained in me, and it just over time, this work ethic and this discipline and this grit sort of developed. But I mean, growing up, we also had great parents, a great environment, and they instilled just strong values and again, work ethic. And so we had, I think, a strong foundation there. Mm-hmm. But then it's just hard to explain. But I think if she was doing, I don't know, in school, if she was getting straight A's, I would be like, okay, well then I should get straight A's too.
Right.
Yeah. And then in volleyball, I'd see her go up and hit the ball, and I'm like, oh, well, I can do that too. I'm going to go up and hit that ball and get a kill. And so it's like having a mirror, a mirror image in a way. Yeah. But you realize you can be doing, I don't know, I'd see her successes and I'd be like, okay, I can do the same thing. And then you just keep moving up.
It's the ladder. Like, it's like you just, one person sets the bar just a little bit higher, and it just kind of keeps laddering up. And based off of that ladder, right? Like, I mean, you guys found yourself at one of the best volleyball programs and one of the best schools in the country. And was wondering if you wanted to talk about like that journey into Stanford and how all that happened for y'all.
Yeah. So I remember we started to think about what kind of college we wanted to go to. And
before you go, were you guys a package deal?
No, we weren't. But I think we both had the same high standards for
Right.
where we wanted to go. And Stanford was both of our top choices. So it started off as sort of a distant dream, I guess. We just heard about Stanford and how amazing of a school it was. It's basically the Ivy League of the West Coast. And I don't know, I was just like, oh, wow, that would be a really cool school to go to. But I didn't even think it was possible. And then as we started getting recruited, we reached out to Stanford because they're one of the few schools you have to make contact with first. They don't send out like recruitment letters. And Denise Corlett got back to us. She came and watched us play, and things just started falling in place. And I remember realizing, like, wow, this is actually happening. We have a really high chance of going to our dream school, and it was just the coolest feeling to see everything manifest and come to fruition. And again, we were very sound academically, I think, partly because both of our parents were math teachers. So grades were not an issue for us. And then we were some of the top recruits, I believe, in the nation. So
you were.
It all, it all lined up perfectly for Stanford, because it is a really challenging school, I think, to get into. And you do have to get in academically, even if you're getting recruited as an athlete.
For sure. And that's the unique piece about some of the, again, those high academic schools, right? Like, so it's, you check the box academically, or you check the box athletically, but then, okay, can you check the box academically? And so like, that's amazing. And again, you mentioned Denise, right? Denise and, head coach John Dunning. I mean, again, legends within the space. And I remember just being able to have conversation with John and go up and talk to him randomly when he was sitting down recruiting and watching some kids play. And like, but I understand it, right? Like, it's having been like, that's something, once you know what it's about, it's like, oh, I want to be a part of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, honestly, people ask me, like, where would you have gone if you didn't go to Stanford? And it's so hard to answer because there was no backup school that I would have wanted to go to. I remember going and visiting like Cal and USC and UCLA, but it was always just Stanford. So
it's always Stanford.
It was always Stanford. And I think it was the perfect school for us. So super fortunate to get together. And looking back, I'm just like, honestly, I want to do it all over again.
Yeah?
I would go back. Yeah. Because I think those 4 years, and I'm sure other athletes can attest to this, you don't even realize how lucky you are a lot of the time. But you have so many great resources and trainers and facilities, and everything is right there available for you. And then when you move on from life, you're on your own. Move on in life, you're on your own with a lot of
go figure it out. Here you go.
Yes. So yeah, sometimes I wish I had not taken some of it for granted, but I don't think I knew in the moment how lucky I was in a lot of ways. And then the professors you have, they're all the best in their fields.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You go in to a new class and you get a textbook and you're looking at it, and then you look up and you're like, oh, they wrote this.
It's the best of the best. Like, I mean, again, like you said, it's Ivy League of the West Coast.
Yes. So just the opportunity to get to learn from those people is incredible. So sometimes I'm just like, oh, I want to go like learn from those kinds of professors and top people in their fields again. It's a pretty radical experience. So.
That's right. And again, I mean, I think that's the cool thing right now about like this day and age, though, is you can connect and you can follow and you can learn from people. I mean, social media has obviously evolved that, right? And you can find a way to connect with people that are doing things at a high level. One of the guys that I follow a lot on Instagram, who's like a brilliant mind, is Andrew Huberman, and I think he's based out of Stanford, right? Like,
I follow him too.
yeah,
So I listen to his podcast.
yeah. I mean, and again, a lot of the stuff he says is way above me. But again, if I'm not, he's a Stanford guy. Like, those are the type of people. So I can understand if you're a high academic person, or you have a thirst for knowledge and want to grow, right? Like, that's the environment to be in.
Exactly. Yeah. So I kind of I think that's what I miss, is being around so many just like-minded, driven, amazing people. It's kind of insane.
I mean, and again, and then you take that to an athletic standpoint, right? Like, I mean, you're literally competing with like-minded, driven people who are also super high athletic ability. So, I mean, again, I joked about it when you and I were talking. I was fortunate enough to coach against you your freshman year, and then I think it was Alex's junior year, right? Like, but she torched us for 24 kills. You had, I think, 6 kills on 1 error, and this is when I was volunteering at Marquette. But like, you're out there beating the hell out of people, and then also you're just brilliant minds. And again, that to me is just like it's fascinating and amazing, and I can't applaud people like you or athletes that compete at the highest level, both academically and athletically, enough. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So I want to let's talk about your journey at Stanford, right? Because you said you would go back and do from aspects of that, but like, your journey was a little atypical than many athletes, and I was wondering if you'd be able to kind of share a little bit about that and kind of dig in.
Yes. So I did have, my college years were some of the most rewarding, like I mentioned, times, but also some of the most difficult. In 2012, when Sam and I were 19 years old, it was our sophomore year, she unexpectedly passed away. And it was by suicide, which made it a lot more difficult. She had been struggling with depression for some time, and I don't think she was totally equipped with all the tools yet to kind of cope and handle it. She was seeing a therapist, and my family, we all knew about it, and we were doing our best to support her, but she went off medication without telling anyone. And I think a lot of people know that when you're taking antidepressants and you go off, your brain can do some funky things. So that's the only thing we really were able to figure out. But it was a tragic experience for me because I had spent the day with her studying at a Starbucks off campus, and I went to go get an MRI of my knee, and then I came back to do some more studying, and I just happened to stop by her dormitory. I'm not totally sure why. I was thinking of going back to mine and studying, but I was like, I'll just stop by and see if she's there and study. And I was the first person to find her. And I initiated the first responder response. So I think that made it a lot more difficult for me. But I also think that's one of the reasons why I decided to become a first responder is because of that, I guess, incident or that moment. I know I couldn't have saved her in a sense, but If I can save someone else, then I'd be making a difference in a way. But yeah, that was it's hard to describe, but my whole world can come crumbling down. I think there's constructs and viewpoints you build up over time, and then certain things can just bring it all to the ground. So that was really hard for me. I had a hard time focusing on schoolwork afterwards. So my sophomore year was kind of like I was just floating. It was a little bit of a haze. And I just wanted to be around people. My perspective on a lot of things shifted just because I thought about life differently. I wanted to make the most of every moment, enjoy it. Again, I think I just wanted to be around people. It was also hard to be alone. I couldn't be by myself for a long time. I think you get used to, or for me, I was used to always having a twin sister and a buddy to talk to and be with, and then all of a sudden not having that there. It was just weird, challenging.
Yeah, I can imagine, and we'll keep going, and you can steer it from wherever. I do want to just call out, like, I want to thank you for sharing, because again, like I know and I can see and I understand the difficulty of this, and there's a lot to unpack, a lot to share, and the fact that you're willing to share this and also share how you found some ways to move forward and continue to keep going. Like, I'm grateful for that. And I know that anybody listening, that, you know, this is really huge. And I'm grateful for your vulnerability. And it's like, thank you. I can't thank you enough for sharing this. And, you know, however you want to go, I am curious a little bit. You said you wanted to live, like you wanted to savor the moments, you wanted to be around people and all that stuff. But like, did Sam's passing, how did Sam's passing spark that in you? Like, bring that out in you?
So I think people grieve in different ways. And it was, you could even see it in my family. We all coped with it in different ways. Some people will fall into a sort of depression, and they'll have a really hard time doing just normal day-to-day activities. For me, it was the opposite. So I was like, I know I'm not going to crumble. No, I actually got mad. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I remember a therapist describing my personality as someone who spits in the face of fear. And that is sort of how I dealt with it. I felt like I wanted to live life to the fullest for both Sam and I. And from that moment on, it was a massive paradigm shift. And it was hard to focus on things, I think, like school, because I didn't see the significance of some of it in the long run. And honestly, I do think college education is hugely important, but a lot of it is not totally necessary. So it was a big shift for me, and it took some time, I think, to settle. And I still have that same sort of sense of urgency, I guess, with time. My biggest pet peeve is wasted time. So, and you can talk to my family, everybody knows this, but I hate wasting time. And
what do you mean by that?
I see each and every day as an opportunity. And I'm going to make the most of it in whatever pursuit I'm currently after. I'm a big list maker even, and I'll plan out my days. I don't know, time wise, and I'll have, I don't know, a list of everything I want to accomplish. But I can't stand wasted time. Anytime, I don't know, if I'm going to do a volleyball practice, or I'm working with someone on a project too, I have a really hard time if I don't feel like it's the efficiency that is there, or the attention and the focus. Because to me, again, I just see time as the most valuable resource. And if you're going to be there, then you should use it to the full advantage. So
I agree completely. And again, as we were chatting a little bit beforehand, right? Like, and we'll get into kind of how this has evolved your thinking, but like being able to go out and maximize the use of our time and get out and get after it and try to accomplish things that we want to set out for and challenge ourselves and all that. Like, again, I think that has become more mainstream, but that wasn't necessarily the case in 2012, 2013, 2014, as you're going through this. Right. And so like, I believe that obviously your mindset shift was a little bit ahead of the curve, but it was also, to your point, right? It was one of the ways that you grieved. And this is one of the ways that you decided how you wanted to live your life because of what happened. And yes. I think that a lot of people allow things to happen to them, or they can, to your point, evolve, and they can go ahead and determine that it's going to change the trajectory, or here's this fork in the road and I have a choice how I want to deal with this. And
yes.
This is the route that you've taken.
I think there's a choice involved with how you're going to respond to any kind of challenge or difficulty that life throws at you. And you see that fork in the road with a lot of different people, and they can go down one path of sort of self-destruction, or they can go down another path that allows them to rise and build and grow, and they become a lot stronger from it. So if you look, I think, at a lot of people who have done great things in their lives, it's not like they had an easy path. I think they experienced a lot of these forks in the road, and they continued to choose the right one. And in the end, you come out a lot stronger. And those experiences are, I think, pivotal to developing character and life skills. You have to go through the hard times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've shared in the past, like, again, my mom passed away and all that stuff, and everybody's like, oh, I bet you wish you could go back. And like, no, like, again, this is as far as my life, right? This is the life that I've chosen to live beyond that. And from that perspective, right, like everything that has happened to me to this moment has happened because of that moment, right? It has happened. I cannot rewrite it. And it's the reason that I am the person that I am today. And I'm grateful for the moment, even though in the moment it was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to deal with in my entire life. And I'd imagine it's something similar for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to blow past it. You mentioned, Sam was talking to a therapist, and this will be kind of the last thing that I do want to talk about. And I do want to continue to move on because I want to unpack your journey. But like a lot of the people I talk to are on here or in general, like mental health is a topic that comes up, right? And how people deal and and like, I don't know, in our pre-conversation, you mentioned, you even did, like, you had a therapist who said you spit in the face of fear. Like, but do you, from a mental health perspective, what do you think, and again, this is not medical advice, anything like that, and make sure, but like, what do you think, or what did you do that allowed you to help deal with some of those things?
This has been something I've actually learned over the years, but talking to people, and it doesn't even have to be a therapist. I've learned that just being open and communicative can get you so far in life. And if you let people in, if you have good people skills and you're able to portray your own thoughts and visions and ideas clearly, a lot of things will end up working out in your favor. And it also, though, I think is really good for your own mental health. Just to be able to share what's going on in all of the internal networks and intricacies, because I don't think we're meant to keep all of it to ourselves. Mm-hmm. And being able to share with other people, it's sort of like a mirror. You can see yourself and your ideas more clearly, I think, through other people. Even with, I don't know, when I'm trying to make a big decision, I'll go around to at least several people and basically lay out the scenario for them and ask them what they think. And one, I can see their reactions. And then two, they can share their perspectives and any sort of views that I otherwise didn't see. You're basically just gathering a bunch of data, and that gives you so much more clarity and experience, I think, than you otherwise would have just on your own. So talking to a therapist, talking to family, talking to friends, talking to whoever, one, it gets you outside of your own head. And then two, it just, it adds more perspective and I think viewpoints that you otherwise, you just can't have on your own. Yeah.
No, I get it. And again, I agree with you. And the word that kept coming up for me as you were talking about is like your tribe, right? Who are you surrounding yourself with that you can do this and lean into? But the one, I guess, caveat or the one disclaimer for me is the word vulnerability, right? And being able to be vulnerable and being your true self, because it does you no good, or it does me no good to sit and surround myself with people and share this kind of where I'm at and what's going on, if it's not actually what's in my head, or if it's a opposite side of that. And that's my only thing, that I love it. And I think that I love to do that, but it's gotta be what's coming from your mind and your heart, in my opinion.
Yes. And I think it takes practice, and it takes some skills to be able to express yourself. Mm-hmm. It does take some time, and it's hard. Like, a lot of times people will be feeling a certain way or a certain thing, and it's really hard for them to unpack it and even figure out what it is and then put it into words. So it's definitely not an easy thing, but it is a skill that can be developed over time. Mm-hmm. And I think it will get you very far in whatever you're pursuing in life. Say it's business, professional sports, whatever it is. Having the ability to communicate in that way, it's all about the people, and it's all about relations, I guess. So communication is one of the biggest things.
You hear the sirens in the background.
Yeah, I hear. Yep.
Do you perk up when you hear them?
I'm always like, oh, that's my friends. Yeah.
my brothers too. Like again, whenever back home with them, like you hear somebody, you hear a side, that's C chef that is so and so's working. Like it's just, yeah, I get it. Sorry, I digress. Like it was like the shiny object. So as you're going through these things and you're surrounding yourself with people, right? Like, and let's transition. Let's go past Stanford, and then you're going kind of on the next leg of your journey,
Okay.
right? You're trying to figure out what's next, right? Like, how are you weighing it out? Where do you go? What's the kind of next evolution of Carly?
So I was pretty fortunate because while I was at Stanford, I got asked to go train on the U.S. national team. So already I knew that was my next step, and this opportunity was already there for me. So Karch had me come in the gym and do some training with the team. And I also was getting interest from foreign clubs, professional clubs. So before I graduated, I had a contract with RC Can in France.
Oh, no kidding.
Racing Club de Cannes. Yeah. So those things just kind of fell in place. And I think it's because I had a successful college career, and it just set things up for me.
Sure.
I did graduate with a degree in human biology. So that was something I was interested in and passionate about, but I knew that professional volleyball career was taking off for me, and that was something I was going to write out for as long as I could. So went for it. I played with the indoor national team for 4 years, from 2014 to 2018. And I also played overseas in France, Turkey, Japan, and China for those 4 years. Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. And again, I've been fortunate to talk to a couple of people and know people like have done it. And you even touched on it earlier, right? The evolution into playing overseas and kind of what that does to the psyche, to the individual and all that stuff. I mean, and those different spots, I've heard pros and cons about each spot that you've stopped.
Yes. Yeah. No, it was, I wouldn't take it back for the world. I think I grew so much. Every year I lived overseas, and I got to travel and see the world and experience these different cultures, different foods, met so many amazing people. So I think the pros totally outweigh the cons, but again, it is challenging to go live in a foreign country by yourself.
What was your favorite stop along the road?
My favorite was Japan.
Why is that?
I lived in Ishiyama, which is just outside Kyoto, and I loved my team and how they made me feel so welcome. I remember before I moved in, I was getting emails from them, and they asked me what my favorite color was, and I was like, "Why are they asking me what my favorite color was?" And I was like, "Blue." And they're like, "Okay, we're making your apartment a blue theme," and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" They just they went out of their way to make me feel welcome and comfortable, and that is hard to find, I think, in some other countries. But the Japanese culture is also has very high level of respect and discipline and just strong values that I agree with. And then you could see it transcend into how the team functioned and worked. And they did all the cleaning at the gym themselves. All the girls did. And it was just so team oriented. Like everyone had each other's backs.
Well, it also sounds like, again, from the structure, the discipline, the values and all that stuff, right? It kind of almost sounds like it aligns with kind of how you were brought up. And then on top of that, right, like let's take a page out of Stanford's books as well. Like, I mean, again, like that's just kind of the evolution of you, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the work ethic was amazing. The coaches were very kind, but they also pushed me and I don't know, taught me a lot. I had a translator, so that was very helpful.
Oh, I'd imagine.
Yes. The food was amazing. Oh my gosh, the sushi. So
I was going to say, what was your favorite thing? Was it the sushi?
Yeah, sushi was so good. They love nature, so there was beautiful gardens all over the place.
Kyoto's the one with the orange, the gates, correct?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So overall, it was just a beautiful country to be in. Beautiful people, and I don't know. I had a great time playing with them.
Was that your last stop?
No, my last stop was the next year. I played in Beijing, China.
Got it. Okay. And so if we're kind of going chronological, right? Like Beijing, China is the last stop on the foreign tour for you. Like, what caused the stop? What made you decide to call it quits?
So I came back from Beijing, and it was I think that was maybe my toughest season. China was just challenging. And I went to visit my brother in Hawaii because he was going to college there. It was just for a weekend, and we were out surfing, and I don't even know exactly how it occurred, but I was riding a wave, and I went to turn the board and jump off, and my left knee caved in and popped because I was pushing off that leg. So I got back on the board, and I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And I started paddling to shore, and I was bending my knee, trying to like see if it hurt. And I got in where I could stand up and stood up, and I just started bawling because it hurt so bad. And I was like, I tore my ACL. Ended up not being my ACL. I actually tore my MCL, which is a lot better. I didn't have to have surgery, but it took me out of the summer with the national team, which was pretty devastating for me because I had put in 4 years already, and it was going to be a big summer for me to really establish myself and see where I could position myself on rosters that season and coming up. You do have to kind of put in your time with the national team, and I think up till then I had been putting in my time. So this was, I don't know, a big opportunity for me, and then the injury took me out of it. So Karch was very supportive, though, and I'm very grateful that he let me be there in rehab. And by the time it came time again to sign another contract for the next season, I just wasn't quite healthy yet. So didn't sign. And then I was sitting in Hermosa, which was where I was living. I was just commuting to Anaheim every day, and I didn't know what to do because it was the first time I was sitting at home with this 9-month period ahead of me without a contract. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll start playing some beach volleyball. Started playing beach volleyball, and at this point, Carrie Walsh had just started the P1440 program. So some Brazilian coaches were out on the beach holding some great practices for players, and they saw me and took me in. And I started to develop pretty quickly. And I also fell in love with the beach volleyball game. It's so fun. It's so different, but I don't know. It's similar to indoor, but it's so different. And you're out in the elements. You're so much more involved in the game, I think. And you have more control in a sense because there's just two of you. So Brittany Hochbar saw me and picked me up as a partner, and it was kind of like getting baptized by fire. But we immediately started playing on the FIVB tour and on the AVP tour. Yeah.
It's like, here you go, right? Like you said, trial by fire. And again, it's not like Brittany's a no-name individual. I mean, again, very well respected and decorated member of the beach volleyball community.
Yes, for sure. It was the coolest experience to get to play with her. But yeah, I think it was certainly challenging in times because I just wasn't, I didn't have the beach foundation under my belt quite yet. So I could tell for her it was frustrating a little bit. But I don't know. It was really fun. We were both athletic.
Oh yeah. I mean, absolutely. And I'm curious, right? Like, so you pick this up, right? And I'm going to rewind in our conversation to where we talk about like leaning into people and all of that stuff and, bouncing stuff off of, like, is there a point in time that you're sitting there and you're going, okay, like maybe this is where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do full time. And how do you start kind of zooming out enough and bouncing ideas off of people to then come to whatever conclusion you landed on?
Mm-hmm. So I basically reached a point where I was trying to decide if I should try to go to the Olympics for beach volleyball or try to go to the Olympics for indoor volleyball. Because up to that point, my main goal was to go win an Olympic gold medal with the indoor national team. That's what it was all about. Mm-hmm. And Brittany wanted to try to make an Olympic run for 2020. Mm-hmm. So it was such a hard decision, but kind of comical in a sense, because I would go ask people like, should I try to go to the Olympics for beach volleyball or indoor volleyball? And they're like, like the fact that you get to even like,
this is your choice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous. But gosh, I felt like for me personally, just my heart and my passion was leaning towards beach. And I had this indoor career under my belt, but there was an opportunity in beach volleyball. There aren't that many female blockers, especially for Team USA right now. Mm-hmm. And it was a risky move, but I think part of me liked the risk also.
Spit in the face of fear, right?
Yes. I like, oh my gosh, I love challenges. So I liked the challenge that it posed, and I wanted to see if we could do it. So I don't think that's the most logical thing, but I did have a lot of discussions with other people, and I didn't make a hasty decision. So in the long run, I decided to play beach volleyball.
And here you are. I mean, MBO, last weekend and all that stuff. But like, there's a big span in between there, right? You make this decision, then it's okay. Now I've got to commit to it. Now I've got to do this, and again, figure out a different way of life as well. Because again, you were getting paid professionally, you were doing all this stuff. So like,
yes,
what did that look like?
That was, I think, the most challenging piece. With indoor volleyball, you're getting paid a set salary because you're signing a contract, and they pay you monthly. And you put in the work, you put in the time, you get the money. For beach volleyball, it's not that way at all. So you do not have a set salary. You basically make money by winning or by sponsorship. USA Beach will offer some stipend if you're one of the top teams.
It's the top handful of teams, yeah.
Top handful of teams.
Yeah.
So it's that, I think, is one of the biggest detriments to this sport, is how financially difficult it is to navigate as a professional.
Yeah.
And it's just sad because you see a lot of talented players trying to make it work, but the resources and foundation just aren't quite there. So I saw it as an investment, and I knew I was going to lose money going into it. So went and played. I spent a good amount of money, and I did get a lot better. I reached out to Anna Collier after my first season, and I really needed a beach volleyball coach. So she agreed to help me, and in like a matter of 2 months, I saw my game just skyrocket. It was pretty amazing because she coached at USC, and I think she knew she just knew how to teach me the basics and the fundamentals that I really needed, and I didn't really have a chance prior to learn those. So learned those, and I was practicing with April and Alex, helping them get ready for the Olympics a little bit, practicing with Sarah Hughes, and just a lot of top players who I admired and looked up to, and we were beating other teams. So
who were you competing with, or was it just kind of whoever was around? Did you have a set partner at that time, or?
No, I was practicing with Sarah a little bit against other foreign teams.
Got it.
I think she didn't have a set partner at the moment. And then Alex was dealing with some injuries, so I would just fill in for her every once in a while with April. But I remember we played against like Carrie Walsh and Brooke, and won, and I was just like, this is the coolest thing. I mean, April probably did like 90% of the work, but I was there.
You contributed at least a little bit.
Yes. And then COVID hit, and everything just got canceled. So that was really challenging for me, because I feel like at that point I really started to see where I could go in this sport, and I really started to believe in it. And then everything was sort of taken away, and this uncertainty about if it would even come back came into play. And I went to Santa Barbara during the quarantine to stay with my family, and I was just like peppering against the walls in my backyard and
like when you were 12 years old.
Yeah, like trying to keep my touch and doing backyard workouts, and I was trying so hard to just stay ready. And I think a lot of professional athletes struggled with the same things, but it was so hard not knowing when we would get our sport back. And it was at this time where I'd been thinking about being a firefighter for quite some time.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to pause you there because literally we're going volleyball, we're going beach volleyball. I've been thinking about being a firefighter for a long, like, where the heck did this come from? And like, you got to tell.
Okay. So I remember seeing firefighters growing up, and I just thought they were real life heroes. I remember looking at them in complete awe, just being like, oh my God, that's like, I don't know, a hero right there.
Yeah.
And, but I really didn't know much about them. I just knew that they went and they put out fires, and did amazing things. And as I think it was around college years, and definitely when I was on the indoor national team, I just decided that was something I wanted to do. And I remember telling my teammates, like, I think I want to be a firefighter. And they would just look at me and be like, wait, actually, I think you'd be really good at that. But still, I didn't know much about it. I just knew that they saved people, and I liked the vision of it, basically. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, that would be the coolest thing to be a firefighter. And then there's not that many female firefighters too. Right. So for me, again, I liked the challenge of it. And I was like,
I'm sensing this theme with you. You've got this theme, this challenger theme. I got it.
Give me a challenge and I'll do it. But yeah, being a female firefighter, and kind of paving that way, is definitely something that made the career appeal even more to me. So I went to a recruitment seminar when I was on the international team. After practice one day, I just drove to this college where the LAFD was holding a recruitment orientation seminar. And they went more, it basically just goes more into depth about what the job really entails. Mm-hmm. And I remember walking out and I was like, this is what I want to do.
I just saw your face. I mean, it was just literally like, this is like you lit up. Oh my gosh. That's so cool. Go.
It totally, that's exactly how I felt. It lit me up because I felt like there's so much I can offer with professional sports, and there's a lot of impact I can make, people I can inspire, empower, and I think a lot of other professional athletes feel the same way. There's a lot of us feel like there's more we can give, and we're not entirely fulfilled just playing a sport. So with firefighting, I felt like it was completing what I can offer to the world. And for me, that felt so fulfilling to be able to give, I guess, directly make impact in all these ways. And I have a degree in human biology, and it's a lot of firefighting is emergency medicine. So that correlation for me, I'm like, okay, I'll be using my degree, especially as a paramedic. And then it's extremely physical, which I love. I know I'm a very physical person. And there's a high level of risk and performing under pressure, I guess, involved, which again is very in line with my personality. So the more I learned about it, the more I just felt like it was a perfect job for me in the long run. But I didn't know if I would ever be able to pursue it because I was playing professional volleyball. It took up all my time, and my pro career was something I was very passionate about, and I wanted to write it out. I still wanted to go to the Olympics. So when COVID hit, it basically presented an opportunity to lean into firefighting, because for the first time in years, I had this chunk of time with nothing to do. The problem was everything was like closed. So the first thing I needed to do was take a bunch of online or fire and science technology courses. So I took them online through El Camino College. And I took 4 courses, which was actually, it was a unit overload. And I had to get approval from the school.
To basically just immerse yourself in it.
To take that many courses
Oh my gosh.
And so I had to send them my Stanford graduate certificate. And then they were like, oh, okay, you can take them. And so, but I had a timeline. I had to finish those courses so I could enroll in this private fire academy at El Camino College and start that in 2020. I think it was like April or May of 2020. So took those courses, got into the private academy, started that. It was a 5-month academy. You're there at 4:30 every day. You leave at 5 p.m. and it's basically boot camp.
Wow.
It's very paramilitary, very physical. Yeah.
I got it. I mean, again, as I mentioned, I've got 2 brothers that are firefighters back in Ohio. I'm very proud of them.
They've been through it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of those things, and again, obviously, I'm assuming it's based on region, but again, it's that boot camp mentality. It's okay, we're going to push you and do this. So, yeah, I mean,
yeah, they basically
go.
The fire service is very traditional in a lot of senses, and the training is super important because you're going out. It's a lot like sports. I mean, you're working as a team. You're going out and you're trying to accomplish this task. But if you mess up and make a mistake, you can die. Or somebody else can die. So the training is that much more serious. And that's why it's approached from a paramilitary standpoint. It's not because they're trying to break you. I think it's because of the seriousness of it. So they trained us hard, and you're put in a lot of difficult situations, physically and mentally, kind of to test you and see if you're fit to be a firefighter. You have to be able to drag and carry people out of buildings, upstairs, downstairs. You have to be able to throw ladders, which are hundreds of pounds.
I say not light.
It's not like you get to do a warm up in your stretches and mobility before you get I know the tones go off at 1 a.m. in the morning. You run down, throw your stuff on, and then you're there going to action. So it's definitely a very physical job. But I'm tall, which is actually a big advantage for me because for ladders especially, having height is helpful. And then I'm strong. So the physical part of the job, I think, was not one of my weaknesses.
And again, and I'd imagine it took some learning, but to your point, right? Like what you've been through has kind of brought you to this moment, right? I mean, your physical attributes, your strength, and all of that stuff. I'm curious though, right? Like, because this is kind of one of those shifts, right? Like it's kind of a little bit of a career change or a shift around, where you were and where you're going. Like, you said you're like, hey, this has been almost my North Star, right? I talk to a lot of people about what's the North Star and where am I going, and having that vision in mind. You've had that, which is amazing, but like, it's still to the external people, right? Like, this is a total paradigm shift for you. And how did you deal with the naysayers? How did you explain what was going on, what you were up to, and honestly come to terms with like, look, this is what I'm going to be doing?
Yes. It was really hard for me. I had invested so much in volleyball up to this point, and I didn't see, I wasn't done either, but I felt like I needed to start something else too. So I told myself, okay, volleyball is always going to be there. I'm going to try this, and I'm going to give it my all. And then if I ever want to go back and play, I will. And honestly, my dream going into it was to eventually do both, to be a firefighter, because the schedule is very flexible. And once you're through probation, you can move all your shifts around. And then I could basically move things around and go play in the AVPs. So, but it basically offers all the benefits and financial stability that I couldn't find in volleyball up to that point. And I was passionate about it. So I remember reading this book. Oh my gosh. It's called The Defining Decade. And it's basically about how your 20s are the most important years of your life. And that you're basically setting yourself up for the rest of your lifetime. And how so many young people are afraid to just try things and to make a decision, to make a move. And the author talked about how important she thinks it is to get a job. And you see a lot of young people traveling and trying to find themselves and just kind of floating. But I think you learn the most by diving in and by taking action and learning along the way. So something I really came to grasp, I think, in the last year is that there's no such thing as wrong decisions. And I actually had a good conversation with Anna about this. But basically the only wrong decision is no decision followed by inaction, I guess. Because anytime you decide to make a choice and take action and actually give something your best and fully invest yourself in it, you're gathering data, you're learning, you're experiencing things out in the world. And I think that experience is priceless in the long run. And you learn more about, I don't know, things you like, things you don't like. You learn a lot of just life skills, I guess. There's things I've learned in fire that there's no way I could have ever learned in any other avenue in life. So I just urge people, I know that so many people are thinking about things that they want to do and they're just a little bit afraid to take that leap. And I think having the guts to go for it, and I don't know, trusting your instincts too, I think is something I've really been working on. It will take you really far, but there's no such thing as a wrong decision.
Yeah, you're spot on, right? And again, I think the challenging thing that some people come across, and myself included at times, right? You sit and you labor on a decision and you're like, oh, do I, don't I, do I, don't, like the analysis by paralysis, that old, mentality, right? Like, and from what I hear from you is it's like, look, just do, like, collect the data, go out and try it on. And again, the challenge, I'll be a little vulnerable here, right? Like, I mean, being a husband, being a father, being that kind of stuff, like when you sit and you think about the things that you are responsible for, have a hand in, and then you're laboring some of those things, that stuff's challenging, right? And again, I go through those moments myself, but I think hearing you say that, like, that it rings in my ear, right? Like, if you don't try it on, if you don't do your best, you don't go ahead and give your all, you're not going to know. Right. And God willing, go ahead.
I just think, for example, because firefighting and volleyball are made to basically right now, but everything I've gone, like when I was going through fire academies, when I was getting my ass kicked basically every day, I would think about how this was building me and giving me an edge that nobody else was going to have.
Ooh.
And now,
go.
No, now when I get on the court, I can be facing some of the top players on the AVP tour or even in the world, and look across the net at them. And I have a ton of respect for them and their game, and I know everything they've done to get there, but nobody else has done what I've done. Yeah. And so it gives me the coolest edge, because mentally I can know that they haven't been in the kind of fires I've been in. They haven't been through the kind of training I've been through, or been pushed to that point where you're literally about to pass out. It gives me an edge. And I think competitively, that is something I was looking for. So fire, to me, everything has just been training and building me up for the now, for everything that I can face now, whether it be a volleyball match, a car crash, a fire. It's all shaping me, I guess.
And again, I don't know, we didn't discuss this before. I don't know if you're religious or spiritual or anything like that, but again, I believe in God. God's got a plan, right? And the journey that we've been on, we discussed this a little bit before, that shapes who we are and where we're at, right? So I truly believe that what you've been through, the good, the bad, the ugly, and all that stuff, this is exactly where you're meant to be. And you're meant to make the world a better place by virtue of all of the things that you've endured and overcome and, conquered and all of that stuff. So it's hearing you say that, yes, that gives you the edge. And I want to challenge people to think about it that way, right? If you're in the shit, be in it and understand that when you come out of it, you've gotten through it.
You've been through something that nobody else has. Yeah.
Yeah. That's that to me is that one of probably the most profound things that you've said throughout our whole conversation, that I implore people to sit and pay attention to, right? Because again, everybody's journey is unique. Everybody. And that's the quicker we can embrace it, the quicker we can understand what we've been through shapes us, and it's unique to us. That allows us to remind ourselves that we're one of ones and we can do whatever the hell we really want to.
Yes.
Yo. Damn. And I said this, you're an inspiration, right? What you've been through inspires me at the age of 43 to sit and reflect and figure out what challenges I can be a part of and what I want to be up to, because it's very easy to kind of pull back. It's easy to go ahead and
easy to get comfortable.
What's that?
It's easy to settle.
Yeah.
I think and then it's easy to get comfortable. And I think a lot of people settle for less than what they want or what they deserve. And if you have the guts to say, no, I'm going to push for more, that's how you'll get it. But you see so many people in life, they'll just settle for a job that they don't really like, or sadly, they'll marry someone who is probably not the most compatible partner, and
it's good enough.
It's good enough. Yes. And if you then you're going to have that. But if you have the courage to say, no, I'm going to keep pushing for my vision and what I really want, then you're going to get it. You're going to get it. You're going to get there. You just have to, I don't know, to not settle for what's comfortable, I guess.
What I'm going to encourage you to do, and again, I think that we're coming to a point to where we can kind of wrap it all together, but I want to encourage you, and that's what I'm grateful for, this platform and the opportunity that I have, is to basically be a megaphone for people like you, right? To celebrate and share your voice, because your voice and what you've done and said is powerful, and more people need to hear this. And however I can personally help you get that message out there, I will do that to the ends of the earth, because again, like I sit and I watch you just in the time that we've talked. And again, you and I didn't know each other prior to, but you inspire me and you can inspire so many others. And there's a reason that our paths have crossed. So like, I'm using this as a moment of like gratitude and thankful for you sharing everything and you going through what you've been through. And however I can sit and support you, I am here for it, because that's like the people need to hear about you and need to hear your message.
Thank you, Steve. That means a lot.
I mean, it's you are the type of person that the world needs more of. And I'm like, the problem is I'm going off on a tangent and I'm going to take it. Like, we get so wrapped up in people that get put on these pedestals. And again, some people deserve to be there and others do not. And again, I'm not saying put you on a pedestal, but I think that more people need to hear from you and about you. And we're going to make that happen.
Wow. All right, let's do it.
All right. I don't know what we're going to do, but literally you and I are going to brainstorm this, and we're going to figure this out, because like, that's what I do. I connect dots, and I was writing this down the other day that like, literally I love hearing people's stories and getting people to share and understand their stories, and then help them figure out what it is they want to create and what their life looks like because of what they've been through. And that's like, to me, there's a reason that we've connected. So we'll talk offline, but like, I just literally want to say thank you. Like, I'm truly, truly grateful that you said yes to, me reaching out to you and asking if you wanted to share your story, because I knew it, but like, it's much more powerful coming from you. And I'm truly grateful for that. And that said, again, I know I sent you you've listened to a couple of podcasts, and I want to finish with a simple question, but yet it's a question that to me is kind of the ultimate culmination of our conversation. And if somebody asked you and came up to you and asked you the question, who is Carly Wopat? What would you say?
Who is Carly Wopat? Oh my gosh, that's a hard question.
There's no wrong answers. You know that.
Yeah. I would just hope my name in itself would evoke some type of meaning. I want to be remembered, I think, as somebody who is not afraid to take risks and push the boundaries and really go after the kind of life she wanted. And I think being a strong representation for females is also very important to me, especially for younger females, athletes and firefighters who are both trying to pursue those careers. So I want to be remembered as a volleyball player and firefighter, somebody who went after what they were passionate about and made it happen, paved the way, I guess. Sometimes the road isn't clear, and especially with what I'm trying to do right now, nobody else has really done it before. So I have to figure out a lot of my own solutions, and I have to talk to a lot of people and make things happen the way I envision it. And again, that just takes a lot of communication. It takes a lot of help, I think, from other people. And it takes knowing what you're about and what you want, and having the courage to stick to it, even when not everyone's going to understand, or I guess support you in that.
I think the big thing, one last thing that I'll celebrate you on, is like what you've proven is it doesn't matter if people are going to support you or stand by you or anything like that, provided you have the conviction and you have your vision and your mindset and you're working towards whatever it is you're setting out there to do. So again, I can't thank you enough. And you mentioned like the inspiration for females, for athletes, for firefighters and all that stuff. Like, you better believe that my daughter, who's not even 6, is going to know who the hell Carly Wopat is because of what you're doing and how you talk and the road that you are paving or the trail that you're blazing on your own. So I'm going to, like, me personally, I'm going to make sure of that.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
So before we say goodbye, I want to give everybody the opportunity, like, where can people connect to you if they're inspired by you, want to dig in more, want to learn more about you, your journey? Like, what's the best place to do that?
So I do have some social media platforms. You can find me on Instagram at Carly Wopat. And then I also have a Facebook, Carly Wopat as well. I'm not on the Facebook as much, but I think it's linked to my Instagram. So a lot of things are shared there as well. And then, yeah, if you ever want to reach out to me, I think reaching out to me through Instagram would be the best way.
Perfect. And we'll link your Instagram and your Facebook in the show notes and whatnot, and give people the opportunity. And if somebody out there is listening, wants to connect through me to Carly, happy to. Just feel free to reach out and we'll connect dots. That's very easy.
You can give them my email address. I just don't want to say it on this.
No, you're absolutely fine. And not worry about it. Again, I'm cognizant of all that. So, as we close, again, I've offered moments of gratitude and all that stuff, but like, seriously, it's Friday afternoon. You're getting ready to go ahead and see family and do some training and everything. I'm grateful that you took the time out of your day to chat with me and then honestly inspire me and inspire the people that are going to be listening to this. So I have a feeling you and I are going to be close, and I've got a couple things that just popped into my head. So we'll talk offline a little bit later. But
I feel like there's still so much left to unpack.
I mean, is there any? Go ahead. I mean, is there anything else, or do we want to? I'll tell you what. Let's close this here, and then let's put together some notes, and then let's do a follow-up. Okay, that's easy.
Sure.
Because this is just, an hour and 35 minutes in. This is gonna wet the whistle.
Yes.
I dig it. Okay. Well, until next time, we'll say goodbye, and then we'll connect and we'll figure it out from here.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Steve, for the opportunity.
No worries, Carly. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
There's one word that comes to mind when I think about Carly, and that is badass. Carly inspires me in the way that she lives her life on purpose and how she looks at the things that have happened to her, not as things that define her, but as things that motivate her. Thank you for your vulnerability, Carly. I know that through your sharing your story, you have impacted so many others out there. What were your takeaways? What were you left with? Let me know over on my Instagram at Steve Vencel, SteveVencl, on the post for this episode. Additionally, please share this with someone who may benefit from hearing these words. That's what it's about, sharing people's stories and understanding how to keep moving forward. Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment. And until next time, keep moving forward, even if it is just one small step at a time.